Okay. All right, so this is how there's an advanced team that comes through. If y'all don't really understand it, no, you know. Good morning from Sullivan's Island. Good morning from Sullivan's Island.
Good morning, family. It is a pleasure and honor to be here today, standing before you, and to be a part of this amazing committee that has stood in its purpose for 22 years today. When I heard that my part would be to read the inspiration for the remembrance ceremony, I got a little nervous, and not because I would be speaking in front of you beautiful people, but because in the past when I've heard it, I cry. I get very emotional. When we're out here, when we're at the water, I'm very emotional. And so as I read it this morning, I ask for your patience. It's heartfelt. And without this inspiration, we may not be here today to do this very important community and cultural act. I know we must reclaim those bones in the Atlantic Ocean. Do you know that there is not a plaque, a memorial, a day, a ritual, or an hour that is erected in memorial to those 100 million bodies in the Atlantic Ocean? All those Africans in the briny deep, all those people who said no and jumped ship, all those people who tried to figure a way to steer, to navigate amongst sharks.
I guess it's only because he gets in trouble.
We don't call upon that water. We don't call upon those spirits. We don't celebrate these ancestors. We don't have a marker, an expression, a song that we use to acknowledge them. We have nothing to indicate that those are our people and that they matter. We will willingly administer knockout drops. More horrendous is the fact that we do not tap into the ancestral presence in the waters. Our inspiration, Toni Cade Bambara, 1987. And so I'm glad I got to do it without breaking down. I stood in those waters and I asked those ancestors, please give me strength. And they did.
remiss in not asking the elders to allow me to fumble through this. Do I have your permission to speak, elders? Yeah, I speak. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, before I know what I go, I may. I got your attention word. When I say okay, you say all right, okay?
Right.
If I say all right, you say okay, okay?
Hey.
All right now. So, I mean, I was doing the African thing, not knowing it. I know it. I need permission from the elders. Anybody over my age? 32. Times 2 plus 5. All right. From the elders, do we have your permission to continue? Yes. Asante. Thank you, my brother. And now.
I would like to invite the elder in the group to give us permission to carry on with the rest of today's festivities. If you're, where do we start with this? I don't want to get knocked upside my head. Because 71, anybody over 71? 75, anybody over 75? Myrtle, how old are you?
Over 75.
Myrtle, you over 75. Myrtle Glascoe, please stand up. For those of you who don't know Myrtle Glascoe, Myrtle is the former person at Avery, the director of Avery Research. The first, let me rephrase that. The first director, executive director of Avery Research Center. And Myrtle has left, and she came back to reclaim her seat as our village elder. So, with your permission, elder, we carry on. Ashe.
Ashe.
So the blessing for me is that we are all together. So the blessing for me is that we are all together and we are all of one mind, acknowledging the sacrifice of our ancestors and working together to bring our ancestors into our own sphere of spirituality. And I am happy to be here. I am happy to be here.
Ashe-o.
I'm so blessed to be surrounded by all of us.
Yes.
And each year I come, it just gives me joy to be in this place and to be close to the water and to join with you and me and all to give thanks to our ancestors for the protection they give every day. Each of us are protected by our ancestors, even though we may not be aware of it. And the more we become aware that our ancestors are with us and we turn to them each day, the more they become alive inside us.
Ashe-o.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters.
Do these folks have permission to move ahead?
Yes.
Boom. They got folks' permission to move ahead?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. They got...
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We'll go for her feet. Let her hand speak. We'll let her hand speak. Boom. Okay.
Wow. Hey! Yeah!
Look, y'all, look, I got raised. Toni Cade Bambara raised me. I'm, you know, I would not have the ancestor talking, you know, waking me up at night saying, what's wrong with you? Greetings, it is with humility and thanksgiving that I welcome you to the 24th Annual Charleston Remembrance. My name is Jerry Harris. I am president of the Charleston area branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. This annual tribute to our ancestors who perished while being transported over the ocean in inhumane conditions is important to maintaining the momentum that comes from collective memory. Dr. Carter Woodson taught us that those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from teaching a biography and history. The Middle Passage tribute was envisioned by our beloved, brilliant, beautiful activist, writer, scholar, friend, and ancestor, Toni Cade Bambara. We are called today to draw on the power of that history and resources in our continuing struggle for freedom. The tribute this year holds particular power as we in ASALH focus on our 2021 theme, the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity. The Charleston area branch of ASALH is pleased to join in the spirit of Ujima with the Charleston Remembrance Committee led by co-founders Deborah Wright and Osei Chandler. We thank the dedicated ASALH team of Regina Williams, Dena Davis, our branch historian, and Ruth Rambo, our vice president, for providing leadership and working to make this annual experience important to the people of Charleston. We also must acknowledge the significant contribution of our president, Julie Monroe, who transitioned in April to join the ancestors. We are especially pleased to welcome Dr. Tamara Butler, Executive Director of the Avery Research Institute, as our keynote speaker. As we begin the tribute, I recall the deeply unique spiritual and emotional experience of touching the waters of the Atlantic Ocean for the first time on the shores of Ghana, seeing the door of no return at Elmina Castle, and thinking of my Mende ancestors. Then, as now, these words from Lift Every Voice and Sing come to mind. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the day when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, has not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. It's our favorite hope that we participate in this 2021 Middle Passage tribute, remembering and honoring our ancestors, and that we tap into the power of history and memory to make us wiser, stronger, and better. Harambee.
Okay. Want me to tell you about it? Well, Harambee means all pulled together. I learned that at the Hurasasa Shule, part of the East Institution in Brooklyn. When I came to Charleston and organized the Ebony City Soccer Club Little Pele's, Harambee was our rallying cry. We pulled down 3 times: identity, purpose, and direction. Harambee, Harambee, Harambee.
You said it all nice and sweet and stuff. Say it like them kids on the field. It's okay. Wake up them ancestors up in here.
Let me say all that.
Yes.
Okay.
Say it with your heart.
Okay. Put the kids in a pile. They put their left hand in a circle. Everybody's left hand is touching. They're reaching up to the sky. Getting the rays of the sun.
Yes.
And then we pull down 3 times. Harambee, Harambee, Harambee!
My name is Dena Davis, a longtime member of ASALH, and I've been tasked with providing a brief historical context of our Middle Passage ceremony. Over a period of 350 years, more than 12 million Africans, women, men, and children, were removed from their homeland. For weeks and months, they were crammed into ships, enduring unfathomable acts of cruelty. Between Africa and their arrival in Western ports, bodies of the dead were thrown into the ocean, along with those who could no longer endure and jumped overboard, their souls forgotten. Their bones remain at the bottom of the Atlantic. The Middle Passage ceremony honors them and those who survived the brutal journey. The Charleston Remembrance Committee was formed by Osei Chandler, Deborah Wright, and Quadro Campbell, with the assistance of a small working group, which included Sadiqa Chandler, Bob Smalls and his sons, Dorothy Flood, Ajo Palmer, and Helen Phillips. The first remembrance program was held at Fort Moultrie, Sullivan's Island, in 1998. In 2015, the Charleston Remembrance Committee invited the Charleston Association for the Study of African American Life and History to work in collaboration with them on this annual commemoration. This memorial and healing ritual takes place simultaneously at numerous ports around the world, including New York, California, Washington, Virginia, Panama, the Virgin Islands, Brazil, and Ghana. It is only fitting that we hold this commemoration in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you for joining us.
I am Regina Williams. I am a member of the Charleston branch of ASALH. I am also part of the Remembrance Committee. And in this opportunity, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who has worked so hard to make this event possible, beginning with our original founders, Deborah Wright, Osei Chandler, and Quadro Campbell. Julie Monroe, who has transitioned, as has been said, but she contributed greatly in previous years, as has Dena Davis. And not least of all, Miss Brenda Peart, who has videoed all of these events for the last 10 years. I really wish to say thank you. I wish to say thank you for Mama Pearl, who has also contributed every single year for the last 5 years. And she's done so graciously. The last 2 years, she has gone out of her way to make the altar on her property under a big marble magnolia. Right. Yes. But she went out of her way to really set up an altar that spoke to the needs of our ancestors. So I want to say thank you to each and every person who has contributed. I want to thank the people who are watching. I want to thank the people who would like to be here and haven't quite made it yet. I know they're coming. Namaste.
All cultures bury and honor their dead. For those of us in the African diaspora, we have the entire Atlantic Ocean as a burial ground. In effect, we are finally remembering our ancestors' sacrifices and acknowledging the truth that as survivors, we stand on their shoulders. I feel that we are keeping a promise to honor our ancestors and appreciate our contributions, beginning with those who died in the Middle Passage. That's Ann Chin. She's in an organization that's seeking to put port markers in all the places that Africans were brought into this country. Speaking of that, right behind me is the bench by the road that was installed here by Toni Morrison a few short years ago. It's to honor those places in African American history that are not honored otherwise. Many things happen in many places that have never been commemorated. And Toni Morrison sought to put a bench by the road right here at Fort Moultrie because she knew that this is the place where 60% of the Africans that came to America came through these ports.
Let me see. Right. Work on it now. No. Let me see. You was practicing it.
No, the sound. I was giving her the basics. There's the wrist, and the arm. I didn't use my arm. All you're doing is
I am from Johns Island, South Carolina. Attended Charleston County Public Schools, so I'm a proud product of First John and Maddie Washington Preschool, at Hebron Zion Presbyterian Church, Mount Zion Elementary School, also on Johns Island, and then the School of the Arts. So I took my creative writing talent, because people ask me like, what was your talent? Did you play an instrument? I was like, I was a writer. So it just made sense. I took that with me to Xavier University of Louisiana in New Orleans, where I majored in biochemistry. I think most of us thought we were going to be doctors, so that's why I decided to do it. And then from there, I went to the Ohio State University, and that's really the responsibility of, or really the product of Dr. Jarif Jameson and the late Dr. Katie Cannon. Both told me, they were like, if you want to do anything that has to do with Black folks, you should look at the Midwest and the West Coast. So I ended up at the Ohio State. My degrees are in African American Studies and Education. So those are my master's, and my PhD is also in education. And I'm so excited because it was a place that always reminded me about home. So I had the opportunity to work with a mentor who's from Charleston, another mentor who's from upstate. And so together, they really helped me remember that South Carolina is never that far away. And so that's my educational background. One of my mentors was Dr. Valerie Kinlock.
Okay.
So she's from here, and then Dr. James Moore, who's from a little bit more upstate. And so the two of them collectively really helped me. Growing up on Johns Island, I'm fortunate enough to have both of my parents. So my mother is Nancy Butler, my father is Samuel Commodore. So I've always had a taste of both sides of the island. Some people call it Little Johns Island, North Johns Island. My family lives closer to the Kiowa side of the island. And it was an experience that, though I had both of my parents, I was mostly raised with lots of women. So it was my mom, my grandmother. My summers were in New York with my aunt. And so it was through being with my aunt who lived in New York, I really had the opportunity to travel. So that's where they said, like, since you were 2 years old, you were like, anywhere your aunt went, you would go to. And so with her, I kind of got a taste for home is always there, but there's so much more world to see. And so my aunt, my mom is not a formally trained historian, but I don't think that's necessarily needed. My mother loves to collect stories, newspaper clippings, audio recordings of our aunts and uncles. So it was just a really beautiful opportunity at that point to really just learn from people on the ground. That's definitely something my family has. My mother especially has been. Sure. So for education, I really came to the field of education interested in community stories. So my mentor, one of her major books when she came to Ohio State was Harlem on Our Mind. And so she understood and talked to young people about gentrification, about what it means to talk about the history that's around us all the time. And so for me, it was, I told her, I was like, I feel like you wrote my book. I was like, it's not about Harlem, but it's like, how do you get young people to understand a community's history? And so for me in education, I really was interested in how can young people capture, be in conversation with elders and other people in various generations, talk about community history. But what I found was I was also working with people who are working with Black girls. So it was like, even though I thought I wanted to take this lane that was just interested in everybody understanding history, what I found was an affinity for working with Black girls, understanding how they see a place, how they see themselves. And so through that, some of my research has taken a shift towards bringing those two worlds together. So how do Black women and girls understand place? How do they heal? Two pieces that really took off in my research has been Say Her Name as Critical Demand, which talked about how can we center Black women's stories in K-12 classrooms, because I think so often we only study Black women as poets and writers of fiction and imaginative. but it's very rare that we understand who Black women are. So reading their biographies and memoirs all throughout our education. And so I think that helps us understand when we get to a later point in life about humanity, right, and who they are and what they've been fighting for and how those things informed who they are. The second one that took a big leap was Black Girl Cartography, which was about where do we go to find Black girls? So it's not just, I think so much of education focuses on the urban, but very little of it focuses on girls who might be in suburban schools or in rural communities, girls who might be outside of schools. One of my biggest research things was really working with girls in an after-school program at a library. And the kind of stories that the girls shared was amazing. The kind of trauma they overcame, the kind of joy they had. And so for me, I use all of that to inform how we think about place and how Black women and girls have always informed place. They've taught us about joy. They teach us how to heal. They teach us how to create in the middle of nothing. So for me, it's really been dynamic to see that kind of move in my own research. So that's been fun. For me, the past is never the past. Like Christina Sharp wrote the book In the Wake, and in it she says, the past that is not yet the past always interrupts the present. And I think that's where we are. Like the past is never the past. Living in Charleston, it's very difficult to say, and it actually hurts me when I hear people say, oh, we don't need to talk about slavery anymore, or we don't need to talk about civil rights anymore, or we don't need to, and I'm like, we're still living in that moment because it's a lesson we've never learned, right? Like there's always lessons to be learned. And so for me, I think we don't actually have a conception of the past, right? We don't understand it as much as we think we do. So I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed writing about and teaching young people and asking them, you know, what's your understanding? Give me some women who are activists. And one of them said, Coretta Scott King. And I'm like, great, what does she do? And the students were like, married to Malcolm X, it's like, you know, married to Martin Luther King, like, or the lady who freed the slaves. And I'm just like, okay, let's back up a minute and let's talk about, you know, what do we need to learn? Who are the people who we celebrate and talk about all the time? We actually don't know their story. And for me, that's the part that's the most difficult. And so there's so much to be learned from the past. And so the Avery Research Center, the beautiful part about it is that some of the people who are in our archives that we see in our museum collections are still here. And so as a result, the past is not the past because those people are still walking among us. So while you can, you know, sit down with their papers and study the steps that they took or study the letter writing that they've done and the communicate in the community they built, you can also still call some of them up and ask them. And so for me, Avery Research Center allows us to be always in conversation with the past, that it is not dusty boxes about something far away. It's actually something that's immediate, ongoing. It offers us blueprints. It offers us pathways to building a different kind of future. One of the things that I find to be really important about commemoration in the larger part of thinking about the diaspora is it allows us to really ask questions about like what belongs to us. I think so often there are people who feel disconnected because they live in an urban city and they feel disconnected from land, or people who are in the north who may feel disconnected from the south, or we feel that we're disconnected from people in Africa or the Caribbean. And I think commemoration allows us to really figure out our pathways to our ancestors and figure out and be in conversation with and remember knowing that it took a collection of us to get to where we are. I think one of my favorite shirts that I would like to own one day is I am my ancestors' wildest dreams is one of my favorite shirts because what it does is it's like, it helps us think about this idea that I really prefer to say it with an S, that we are our ancestors with an S, wildest dreams, because it's all of them moving towards this idea of like freedom. Some of them we don't know. Some of them we have no idea who they are and where they are. But I think commemoration allows us to ask the question of like, who and what am I the product of, right? Like what kind of power do I actually stand in? And I think so often there are points in our lives where our education teaches us you're just descendants of slaves, right? Or it teaches us that you're just descendants of these people over there, right? But it doesn't actually ask you to drill down and say, you know, who are they? They were botanists, they were dentists, they were doctors, they were healers, they were teachers. Like, I have all of those people as my ancestors, not just the kings and the queens, right, that we often celebrate, but it's all of them together who made a decision to survive, who made a decision to grow, who made the decision not to continue the journey, whatever the case is. All of that power is part of who we are, right? So when we stand up in a classroom or in a courtroom or in any space, it's like, oh, like, these are all the people behind me. I love when people say it's the shoulders that we stand on. I don't believe that. I believe I stand shoulder to shoulder with ancestors, like any given moment, you know? And so I think like that's a different relationship to ancestors, not so much that they're holding us up, but it's like they got our back, they got our front, our side, like they believe in us. And so for us, commemoration allows us to remember that, right? To celebrate those who we stand shoulder to shoulder with, but also to make room for descendants and futures. And so for me, it helps us imagine a different relationship to the world that often teaches us that you're just the descendants of this, right? This one narrow place and person. And I'm like, no, we're more than that. If we actually understood all the people who are behind us and all the things we come with, we could flip this whole world upside down, you know, and I think that that's...
Break it down, Doc, break it down. This is the time. Break it down, Doc. Come on now, break it down, break it down. I heard it in your voice.
We
Come on.
We could flip the world upside down. I think over the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of violence in the city of Charleston, and I'm like, do we know who we are? Like, we're fighting against each other, but we're not the enemy, right? Young people trying to, you know, claim a space or whatever the case may be, but it's like, I don't need to claim a street, right? This whole city belongs to me. My ancestors built this city. My ancestors, you know, own this house. My grandmother owns this house. I don't need anybody to tell me any different. I don't need to fight with you. We're not in competition. The kind of ways that we show up in a classroom and somebody's like, that's not true, Christopher Columbus discovered. No, you don't have to believe that, right? Like, you are equipped. So often you are equipped to do more. You come with greatness. And I don't think enough of us believe that. And because if we did, I think we would participate in politics differently. I think we would interact with each other differently. We would build more rather than trying to separate and segregate and be like, no, this is mine and this is mine. I think we would work together. There'll be more of a collective. But I think because we don't fully understand, like, we share ancestors. Regardless of where we are class-wise, we share ancestors. And that's the part that I think gets people really hung up, because there are folks who are like, I have no idea who my great-great-great-grandmother is. It doesn't matter, right? You just need to know that that person was strong and strong enough for you to get here and for you to still be here. And that's the part that I think we need to recognize. There's a lot of names we don't know. For me, I don't know anybody past my great-grandmother's name. But I know that I came from greatness, right? Like, I had to. If Ali Beno was able to birth, 13 kids and raise them all, and they all go on to do great things with their lives and live long lives. Like my great-grandmother's oldest child lived to be 105. And so,
Wow.
And so she just
That's amazing.
passed. My grandmother is 92. Her sister is probably 95, 96. So, they instill in us longevity. And even though I don't know Ali Michael Beno personally, I know the kind of longevity and the kind of legacy she's left, because I see it in other people in the community. And I think that that's the thing we have to remember. We may not know names, but their legacy lives on. And that's the part I think we don't deal with
Another
enough.
type of commemoration I know that became really popular after Alex Haley's Roots was commemoration that we do here in Remembrance. Is another type that's sort of focusing on ancestors and getting people to not be afraid of the idea of ancestors, which there was some kind, people were kind of squeamish for a long time about ancestors and doing a libation and a ritual, that kind of thing.
Young people are hungry and innovative.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we make enough room for them to be both. I say that my family's been doing family reunions since like the 80s. And we had a t-shirt for every year, right? Like, and I think for a really long time, we kept the same logo. And then over time, each family took a chance at trying to design the logo. Different descendants were like, oh, maybe we should do it this way. Maybe we should do the color that way. But one thing that never changed is where we had the reunion. It always happened on the land where my family still resides and where most of them grew up. So the land that my great-grandmother owned and has passed on to family. So that never changes. So it doesn't matter what part of the family you're in, you just need to know that this plot of land and these pieces of land belong to Ali Michael Bunno and her children. And that was key because there's so many children who don't know, so many generations who are like, yeah, we're from someplace in Charleston, right? Somewhere. But it's like, no, you're from Johns Island, right? Specifically, you're from this community. And why that matters is because I think one of the issues is like heirs property. And I think so many young people get left out of that conversation. I talked to a group of young people in Baltimore, and one of the things that they found is these parallels between like what's happening gentrification-wise in Baltimore and what's happening in Charleston. But they were curious, and they were like, tell me more. What's a tax sale? What's heirs property? How can we stop this? What do we need to do? And I'm like, oh, this is it. The issue is that they haven't been involved in the conversation. And for me, I think it's really about a lack of trust. Intergenerational like mistrust. I think there are some older generations who don't trust great grandkids and grandkids to do right by the land or the whatever. There are some who they're afraid they're going to sell the house or the property. And young people are like, we just want to be included. Like, we just want to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the things that has been really pivotal in Avery a little bit before my time here is thinking about audiencing. So our outreach and programming team has been dynamic in getting us engaged on social media. So really on Instagram, on Twitter, we have a Facebook, but we know, each generation moves farther and farther away from Facebook. I think eventually we might have to be on TikTok. But I think the thing is just trying to figure out where are the young people getting their information from and being there. And so for us, we want to make sure that people know you can tune in to any of our program. Our events are free. Accessing Avery is free when we reopen. And so for us, we find that there are so many young people who have questions now. They're just like, well, who are my great grandparents? Who, what is Avery? I talked to a young woman one day on the steps, and she was just like, I've lived in Charleston all my life. I think she might have been early 20s. And she was like, I never knew this building was here. And to be able to have that conversation, it's like, oh, okay, you're actually surrounded by more Black history than you think. And so that's the hope, is that Avery will continue to do what it's always done, which is educate community members, be in conversation, be on the ground around social justice issues, but making space for that so students on campus, when we reopen, can come here and do work. But also, I think families are using it it is a family reunion style, right? People bring their children here, and so that's my hope, is trying to get us to really close that gap that's been opened up by generational mistrust and understanding, like, no, we're actually trying to move in the same direction. We're trying to move towards liberation. We're trying to move towards a collective. And I think that we can do that. It's really just making room for, I think, looking at different boards, looking at committees, looking at who runs the city. It's like, how do we make space for young people to bring their innovation, their questions to the forefront? My hope is that Avery can help them answer those questions, that we can get some funding to, fund some high school students who may want to learn more. So that's our goal and our hope.
Right. So it sounds good. I would just give ASALH a shout out over there, my ASALH people. When I was an active member of ASALH, when I first moved to Charleston, I attended the conferences,
And one thing that always impressed me was that the ASALH conferences really gave the young scholars an opportunity to present and stuff like that, the young papers. And, you know, I actually, at this point in life, consider you a young scholar.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Yes, you're the executive director, but I consider you a young scholar. So I like what you're saying. And I like, so how do you feel about that? Even Avery bringing in young scholars and for conferences and getting some great ideas. I've been reading through I've been buying some of the books of some of the young scholars, and I've been really happy with what I've been coming across.
I love it. I mean, I hope that we can, you know, I think people like conferences because we've been getting a lot of questions like, are you all having a conference? And I was like, sometimes people just need space.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I really enjoyed doing was a different kind of thing that I realized is a skill that I don't know how often our students have it. But when I was working in Ohio State, I launched a poster competition, and it was very challenging. But to get students to design the kind of posters you mostly see for like medical research. Mm-hmm. But it's like, imagine what it would be like for a high school student or a middle school student to have that skill and be like, I've created a poster. Mm-hmm. I've also presented a poster. I've been in a competition. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about biomedical stuff and science and that nature, but it's also about humanities and history. And that's something I would love to see. You know, I would love to be able to see young people walk away with like, here's a poster I created. It's not just something that will disappear, but it's something that is like, I made this thing. And so I would love for us to feature young people, but also up and coming scholars with new books, lectures. I'm always a big fan of anyone who's looking at the diaspora, any scholar who I also know is critical across the board is also important to me. So folks who practice what they preach. So if you say you're in community, and I can see that you're in community with the folks you're writing with and about, then I would love for you to come to Avery and have events with you, because I think it's also our responsibility to teach people to be ethical scholars. Because I think so often there's people who get really great scholarship out there, but they're not the most ethical, they're not the most considerate or reciprocal. They're not interested in reciprocity or anything. It's like, give me my research and I go. But I know so many scholars have taught me a lot about what does it mean to work with the communities that we love and trust, and produce ethical scholarship. And like, those are the folks I want to really highlight and uplift at Avery.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Now you sort of even have to have a PhD, even maybe or at least be certified to do oral histories, whereas I know when I first started out.
For me, I like to say I call a lot of different people scholars. So that's just, I'm going to put that there. I'm going to put that pin in it for that, you know, like I said, my mom is,
you did say that about your mom.
Right,
yeah.
I consider my mom a historian, though she's not formally trained, but she uses all the tools. Mm-hmm. And so I think because we're in such a digital era, that I don't see, that for us, it's a matter of housing it. Featuring it, I want it, right? Like I want to feature it, I want to talk about it, I want to have conversations about it, I want to have conversations also about method. So like, how did you collect this? How did you take these pictures? Where did you store them? Because that also, the thing about it is that Avery becomes just one archive, right? Like it's one resting site for whatever materials, but they had to come to us through somebody and some collective. And so it's like, if we can teach community members, and if community members could teach each other, so that's the other part of being like a clearinghouse and saying, let's talk. This is how I collected these stories. This is how I collected these photos. This is how I've kept them in pretty decent shape. You know, like that's important because that's another way that we get young people involved. So they don't have to necessarily come to Avery. They can just go, like one of the things that's exciting about what I'm doing with my research is I'm literally digging through my grandmother's collection of obituaries. Right?
And that's some good history, right?
That is major.
And it's beautiful because people, you get to see how people frame their own identity and family and all of that. And so it's the same thing. So by saying that you have people who are photographers, there are people who are quilt makers, that all of those people at the end of the day inform scholarship. So why can't they also be considered in my mind, you know, a scholar? So my hope is that that over time, Avery will have the space. We're excited to be renovating the Senator McKinley Washington Auditorium.
Yes. And
getting some screens and some beautiful, phenomenal speakers so that we can actually share, you know, these oral histories, so that we can share recordings and videos and photos in a way
System works.
You know, in a way that I think is effective, but it also teaches people that the tools that you need to collect your own stories are not locked away in the academy. Right, and so that's my biggest thing, because
accessible, yeah.
Right, I think, you know, Elsa Barkley Brown, even though she's a historian formerly trained, she writes about like the first person who taught her history is her mom. And so all the skills and all the things that we've learned, whether it be quilting, sweetgrass basket making, food, cooking, our own rituals, all of those things are how we understand our history, is how we understand ourselves. And academia didn't teach us that, right? Like that's how we pass down family history and community history, is locked up in those things. And the only way to unlock them is to be in conversation with people who might not necessarily be in the academy. And I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that we respect each other enough to have a dialogue, you know, that's my biggest thing. I think community members and academics, sometimes they see eye to eye and sometimes they don't. And it's working with the minutes when they don't, to be like, let's talk about where we're talking past each other and get into like, what is the thing we're actually trying to do together. So.
Absolutely. So some final thoughts.
Okay.
And what can we look forward to at Avery when you're opening to the public? You might not know that, but other kinds of programs and things, and how can people get in touch with Avery?
Sure.
And programming?
Well, the thing that I love is that we have a new website. I was like, we're slowly making our way into the 21st century. So we have avery.c.edu is our beautiful website. It has an image of 125 Bull Street at the top of our banner. But when you go there, you can see any of our programs for the Avery Digital Classroom is on there, which is a series of dialogues and conversations, lectures, presentations, either done by staff, invited speakers. We even have a couple that we might be doing with community members. I leave programming up to our programming gurus. And they're pretty dynamic. So any things that we've done in the past, for example, we had a conversation with Ariane King-Comer and Ife Franklin, brought to us by the Gibbs, and so that's there. We did a series with the East Side community to really talk about land use, community archiving. That's also up there. The False Cause with Adam Dombey. So all of those programs are there. We even did one it's called She Got Game, and it was about disparities in women's basketball. So to kind of have that featured among all the things, because we are history and culture. So that's there. You can follow us on Instagram. Courtney Hicks and our team is dynamic. We have some really beautiful photographs and footage that we're putting on our Instagram account. You can also, when we do reopen one day, we will have an exhibit, Women of the Diaspora. So it's in conjunction with the housing. So it will be centered around Namza Luba, who is an artist from Paris, but most of her photography work and artwork comes from different countries on the continent. And we'll be putting those in conversation with some artists in the States, as well as in Barbados, and also from the Low Country. And so that exhibit will be here in the fall, hopefully. Everybody keeps their mask on. That will keep us moving towards progress. And so those some of our programs. I think the other thing that we're hoping for is we're really hoping to bring Avery full circle. So there's a building that's next to us, which is 123 Bull. It's our teacherage. And when we talk about future and the future of Avery, my hope is that we can transform that building into a meeting space on the first floor, and then a space for some scholars and residents, postdocs, community people. And scholar and residents doesn't necessarily mean you're in academia. Maybe you're a person in Brooklyn who wants to come and spend the summer in Charleston. So that's my hope, is really putting some energy behind getting that building back to its glory, and making space for us to continue to build and have people come in, really dig in our archives. The other thing is that though we are closed to the public, you can still come by. You just need to schedule an appointment, and you can schedule an appointment with our researchers and kind of go into our archival collection And we have anything in there from papers from Septima Clark to artifacts from West Africa. Like, it just runs the gamut. So that's still available to researchers.
All right, now you know that's a whole lot of old people behind you, right? They got your back. You know that, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, as you said it. Your what?
Ancestors' wildest dreams.
And they got a whole bunch of ancestors that they're rolling up there with you. So we got it.
We got it, Brenda.
Yep, just bring my blue bottles back, and you got me even more.
Gonna watch them clothes and them on the line for daily. Gonna watch them clothes and them for daily. For daily. For daily.
The question, basically, she's talking about what were the Africanisms that were maintained, that continued to develop once people came across the Middle Passage.
Well, early on, from 1670, already by 1700, South Carolina in the coastal area had become a majority of Africans who had been brought from the continent. And because they are isolated from the white population, especially on the Sea Islands, the Africanisms remain very much intact, well into the 1900s. Their contribution to the South include culinary arts, funeral and mourning customs. The vocabulary enters into the Southern vocabulary. They're artisans. Most of the people are captured and transported because they are connected to agriculture. And so the whole history of the first cowboys are in fact Africans who are master herders. They are farmers, and in this area, their skills are in rice. But all the farmers of Africa are also learning other things, and so they bring their artisan skills, and that includes the work in masonry, their work in wood, their work in terms of farming and ironwork, and all of that is still part of that Southern experience. And each year, and then each generation thereafter, you're having individuals who are contributing to what eventually, on the eve of the Revolutionary War, is the wealthiest part of the British colony in North America. They're building houses, they're making furniture, they're contributing in all these ways because of both their skill in agriculture and their skill as artisans. Yes?
I wanted to add to the artisans as well. Artisans were considered another category. They were considered to be people that made more money. They could hire themselves out, even though many of them were still enslaved. They had the capability of hiring themselves out, and particularly if they were in the city of Charleston, as well as in Bridgetown, Barbados, they also had more, quote, freedom, if you will, to make contracts of their own. So you will always see when you look in the records that the artisans were the leaders. A lot of times they became political leaders later on during Reconstruction and so forth. But that's a key piece. Artisans were powerful leaders of our community here in the Gullah land. Yes, ma'am. One more?
Yeah, one more question. One more? Genealogy question. Stand up.
What is the best location here in Charleston proper to do genealogy research?
The best location in Charleston to do genealogy research. Really?
Okay. The question was, what is the best resource for genealogy in the Charleston community? Start from your house. Start at home. Go from you and then go backwards, you know, your siblings, your aunties, your uncles, and so forth. What records are in your house? We all have records in our homes, you know, and it's important to document your records. Like if you have photographs, take a pencil and write on the back what they are, who they are, years, and so forth. So it begins at home, and then you can start stretching out. And all of your records related to, you know, birth, death, marriage, those sorts of things are always important. The Family History Room at at Charleston County Public Library is an excellent resource. The South Carolina Historical Society, and there are many others. We actually have a cheat sheet. If you see me afterwards, I can share that with you. And we can also make it available through some of our resources online as well, okay? We'll probably do it through the Facebook page, okay, for ASALH. I think that's enough.
the human journey, all we see is connection. We see connection at the point of being conceived. We're connected to our mothers then feed us, then we're given to a family that has to take care of us. Connection, 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 connection. We should not turn away from the divine instruction of being connected to each other. And we should never forget that in many ways we are medicine for each other. We show up, that phone call that comes just when you need it, the somebody that walks in the door just when you need to hear from them, the time that somebody manages to send something to you just when you need it. We are the first line of medicine for each other. And we've got to learn to use the other medicines that are out there for us to use. We've got to learn how to be able to be less private and more understanding that there's probably nobody's got anything happening to them that hasn't happened to somebody else.
From Brazil, and I'm here just to say that we are very proud to be the small part of ASALH family. I want that you all keep going, keep strong. When you in the United States and Africa are strong and keep going, we here, the small ones, do the same thing. We have a long way to make Afro-Brazilian people being respected in Brazil. So keep going, keep strong, and celebrate our ancestors. So when you do that, we make us to feel so proud. Thank you. Do a great celebration.
Knows no bound. It is perhaps the only thing we can celebrate because of the transatlantic slave trade. The things we were forced to come up with through sheer need to survive. I was in Ghana a few months ago and saw the streets there lined with ackee, only to find out that the Ghanaians don't eat the ackee at all. Ackee was something that we learned to eat because of slavery and because of the conditions we faced under that terrible crime against humanity. And it is even said now, even at places like the University of the West Indies, which was once a plantation, wherever you see ackee trees growing, it marks where the slave quarters were. So much things we can find out, the history of our people as Africans. So again, thanks to the New Forest Primary and Junior High School. We're going to be laying 10 wreaths this morning, and as I read the story of the Zong, you will understand why because not only do we recognize the lives lost by those who were murdered by the enslavers, but also the bravery of those ancestors who jumped to their own deaths in solidarity with their murdered brothers and sisters. In so many ways, the Zong is such an accurate microcosmic look at the entire transatlantic slave trade, the African Holocaust, the Maafa, the Maangamizi, because all the elements are contained within. The suicide, the murder, the horrific conditions that they faced, the desperate choices that they had to make, even the stories that tell you how sharks used to follow the trail of slave ships because they had gotten so used to the fact that sooner or later there would be some food in the water. You know, it's like a fisherman. This is Black River, so you're supposed to know about fishing. When them say you chomp up the water, you go out there with bait, and so fish become accustomed to this, and they actually approach the boats. There was a painting done of the Zong that depicted that. You may see images of it if you had one of these brochures. In 1781, a Liverpool syndicate led by one of the city's major traders in enslaved Africans, William Gregson, on a slaving voyage in the area of Cape Coast and Amabu, bought an impounded ship previously owned by the Dutch and called Zork, ironically meaning care in Dutch. There were already 204 enslaved Africans on board, and they became part of the transaction. More Africans were bought in the area of Cape Coast and Accra in what is present-day Ghana, and placed on board during the 5 months before the ship sailed. So the ship stayed docked for 5 months with a cargo of over 200 enslaved Africans already on board. Under the captaincy of the inexperienced Luke Collingwood, previously the surgeon on the William, and a hastily assembled crew, the ship was renamed Zong and set off on its journey to Jamaica on the 18th of August, 1781. So you had 5 months where you were just lingering in the ship, not moving from the coast of Africa. Then you had another 4 months or 5 months between leaving in August and arriving here on this day 238 years ago, the 22nd of December. Before the Atlantic crossing, the ship made a stop in Sao Tome, leaving there on the 6th of September 1781. On board the ship destined for Black River in Jamaica, some 4,000 miles away, were then 440 enslaved enslaved people. 19 crew members and a passenger who was a former slaver captain himself and who would later have to captain the Zong temporarily when its own captain fell ill. Like most slavers, the Zong took on too many people for the size of the ship. The ship was small, only 110 tons, and should have had on board just 193 people, including the crew. Its journey was slow, having sailed from further south than most slavers in the 11th century. Sorry, that should be in the 18th century. After about 10 weeks after leaving Sao Tome, it arrived in Tobago, after which it continued on its journey to Black River. A total journey of 100 weeks, but not before it veered off course near Haiti, losing time before it got back on course for Jamaica. By then, complaints of water shortage, illness, and death among the crew, as well as poor navigational and leadership decisions, all created a level of confusion.
Well, again, good morning. I am with the National Park Service. And thank you all for coming out. I want to make this Park Service-wise and personal-wise. 34 summers ago, this very month, I began my journey with the National Park Service. The visitor center that you saw and experienced is not what I found when I got here 34 years ago. So along the journey, the ancestors have guided me through physical, tangible things that you saw and will see here today. Because when I arrived here, the exhibit African Tapestry did not exist. When I arrived here, the historic marker outside of Fort Moses in District Sullivan Island, it did not exist. When I arrived here 34 summers ago, the bench by the road that you will see later today, it did not exist. But in June of 2014, they are here.
That's it.
They are here because we are standing at the bank of the Cooper River. As I often said, the gateway of the ancestors and Africans into the New World. History tells us that 40% of all the Africans that survived the Middle Passage, that made it across those treacherous waters, first stepped foot on North American soil here on Sullivan's Island. That's why we are here. That's why you are here today. With that in mind, you have to go now into your mind's eye and imagine Sullivan's Island not in the way that you see it here today, but a barrier coastal island. And if you can journey with me, history tells me in this quadrant of Sullivan's Island between 1701 and 1799 were three small buildings that were called pest houses or lazarado. The colonial government of South Carolina said in the early 18th century that all ships bearing cargo from Africa were required to quarantine those individuals on Sullivan's Island. So imagine, if you will, a vessel coming from West Africa, past where we're standing today, and curving around behind Sullivan's Island, you will see later today, is what we call the Cove. And those Africans now being imparted onto Sullivan's Island, being detained in those pest houses for up to 10 days. Because they believe after 10 days, if they were suitable, if they were healthy, then they would be taken into Charleston at the conclusion of the African slave trade. So it's in this context, in this reason, that we are here today commemorating this island. And in this place, in our American diaspora African experience. This waterway is part of our American experience. So nearly a decade ago, when you all began coming here to Sullivan's Island and to begin to experience the remembrance ceremonies that you've had, this is big, this is right, this is depth, that in this place, on this island, on this day, in this water, that this commemoration happened. So now when we leave this place, we leave with the knowledge. We leave empowered. We leave realizing Sullivan's Island place in our American experience.
A lot of dead people didn't make it here.
Right.
A lot of dead bodies are still out there.
Didn't
That's
make it.
why we are here.
That's
We
why
are
we're
here
here.
because of the dead people who didn't make it, who were thrown overboard.
Come on now.
That's why
Come on
we
now.
are here today. We're dead.
And as I shared earlier, your gathering here is symbolic also for the transition of freedom. Because we also know at the ending of the American Revolution, as the British evacuated this very same island, the word went out to Africans. If they wished freedom, they could leave with the British. And so now that's why our brothers and sisters were in Nova Scotia. Because they left from these same waters over 200 years ago. And so that's the impact that Sullivan's Island has. And that's why we're here today. And the Park Service continually welcomes you year after year to commemorate and to remember this sacred place. Thanks.
Charleston, South Carolina. I go. We have an opportunity to do what other cities don't do. That low country clap. Come on, Charleston. Oh, yes. Yes. Come on. Oh, Charleston. Hey. I don't know what you've been told. I don't know where you gon' go. I come to clap my hands. I come to stomp my feet. I come to love my people. Hey, come. Hey. I come for my healing. I come for my love. I'm here for my people. They're gonna show me some low country style. Bring on the beat. I say, I say, I say. Hey. I come to clap my hands. I come to stomp my feet. I come to take my... What joy! What joy! Hey! Yes!
Ancestors who've gone before us, to the powers of nature that maintain us, gives us bread, gives us food, gives us shelter, gives us all the things we have to to fight and to seek our freedom and to seek justice for us. We want to remember all of them by many names and by many places within our great ancestral land and within the diaspora. We want to give thanks and praise to all our great ancestors. We say, we also say we give thanks and praise to all those great ones of light who have walked this earth, being female and male. We want to say give praise and thanks to the sun at high noon, to the creative forces of high noon, manifested its greatest potential energy in the form of the maturity of those great, powerful forces of light coming forth from the sun of the one chair. Give thanks and praise to the heavens, from which comes forth all energies to this earth. We give thanks and praise to the earth, which gives us life and sustains us. We give thanks and praise to the rising elements of the wind and air. Maku, Wasar, Makeru, Tepia, Shepshu, En Ta Entera, Mesitu Senu, double-pillared country. Okay? The great Necher, or the great power, the noble one of Abjutan, food offerings, libation waters, beer, wine, and all things beautiful and pure, on which nature lives, to the souls and spirits of our beloved ancestors of Ta Intera. That's one of the names we call our continent Africa. We call it Ta Intera. It means the land of the great creative forces.
Olá, irmãos e irmãs de Washington e de outros lugares de nossa amada África. Sou Benedita da Silva, representante do Rio de Janeiro no Parlamento Federal, de onde, por quase 40 anos, eu luto pelos direitos de nossos irmãos e irmãs do Brasil. Daqui do Brasil, saúdo esta importante celebração, ato de memória de nossas ancestralidades africanas. Que no Brasil, que tem um legado enorme, marcado ainda hoje pela luta contra o racismo e pelo avanço de nós negros na sociedade brasileira, ano que vem, eu espero talvez estar aí, celebrando com vocês. A luta continua. Queremos que não nos impeçam de respirar. Parem de nos matar. Queremos respirar.
suffered such a great tragedy. Sing, my Alpha, 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 we cry. My Alpha, my Alpha, we cry. My Alpha,
Thank you so much, Asante Sana. This is the Philadelphia Middle Passage Ceremony and Court Marker Project launch of Ancestral Remembrance Day. This is, as far as I know, a first in the city of Philadelphia. This effort to have a historical marker placed in the city of Philadelphia specifically for the purpose of acknowledging the Middle Passage, because slave ships carried our people directly from Africa to this river, to this port in Philadelphia. So we are here today to commemorate the 2 million Africans who perished in the Middle Passage, but also those who survived that Middle Passage and were part of building this city and this nation. We are the descendants of those Africans, and we should celebrate ourselves. We should celebrate our ancestors, celebrate our elders, and celebrate ourselves. That's right. Give yourselves a big
Okay, the one thing I know we all educated, or we all know, but the one point I want to make about voodoo, the lesson we teach in voodoo is the respect of the mineral world, like the rocks, the water, and under earth, the earth and the earth, the respect of other plants, the respect of all animal world, which are the animals and us. Respect for life and everything that we see God, the one God, through the manifestation of the Spirit.
As part of St. Augustine, Florida's 450th anniversary commemoration, the St. Augustine Middle Passage Committee sponsored an ancestral remembrance ceremony and historical marker unveiling on February 7, 2015. The ceremony was held on the north lawn of the Castillo di San Marco at noon, and the marker unveiling took place on the grounds of the Misión Nombre de Dios at 3 p.m. that afternoon. The ceremony consisted of Native American representation by Chief Justice Willie Johns of the Seminole Tribe, a historical statement by Dr. Dorothy Israel, and prayers by a diverse groups of faith practices, Christian, Islamic, and Buddhist. An essential component of commemoration is a traditional ancestral libation, led by spiritual advisor Melodoma Som, originally from West Africa. Elder Dorothy Israel granted permission to begin this portion of the ceremony.
The African American Association of Augusta gathered in song and solemn ceremony today at the Savannah Riverfront.
This is our third annual Ancestral Remembrance, and we hope to have many, many more.
Then, following the drums, they walked to the dock, reflecting upon the lives lost during the transatlantic slave trade that began around 1502.
I said I want to let people know and let my ancestors know today and tomorrow and forever that I am thankful, thankful, thankful to them.
Other families came to show their gratitude.
It's awesome because this is a family affair, you know, and if family is the priority, that's the most important thing. If it weren't for family, then we couldn't be here.
Maka Smith Elbay also came to instill one important life lesson in her two daughters.
Number one, that our heritage is every day. Our legacy is every day.
Ashe. And Ashe.
Like the old spiritual, they joined together down at the riverside to honor the lives of those who did not make it traveling through the Middle Passage more than 400 years ago.
We will finally seal our day together by symbolically throwing our flowers to the Savannah River.
So they cast their flowers into the river, hoping they reach the Atlantic Ocean and bless the souls still resting in the waters between Africa and America. In Augusta, Akila McMullen for the Metro Spirit.
give thanks this day. I give thanks this day. I give thanks this day. Let's see, hoping the phone on the rune. Gratitude to the owner of the realm of the ancestors. I extend gratitude to my ancestors as I call on Olodumare. As I call on Olodumare, the controller of this universe. I call on Olodumare to continuously guide and protect I. Take charge of my people. Take charge of I destiny. Continue to guide us in the path that I give thanks. I give thanks to all the ancestors. I give thanks to all the ancestors. I extend gratitude to all the ancestors. I extend gratitude to all the ancestors. This day and forever. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Washing someone's feet is a humbling experience, okay? I mean, they talk about they wash the feet of Jesus, you wash the feet of your man, you wash the feet of your friend or your sister or your brother, because none of us is too big that we can't do that. It also shows love and respect. So today you've had an experience going into the castle dungeon. And for some people, you didn't feel anything, so that's perfectly all right. And others felt something else. But what's most important more than anything else is that you have returned to the land of your ancestors and that you have touched the places where they were, so that you have in fact reconnected with the land of our motherland. So the purpose here in this circle, one, in giving thanks to the Almighty Creator for having blessed all of us to even be here today. Because with all of the things that are going on in America, the numbers of brothers and sisters and elders that we're losing, every last one of us standing here is blessed to be here, because it could have been one of us. So what we want to do is that we want to remember our ancestors, our families, our friends, those who've gone on before us. down and we will remember.
We won't bow down and we will remember.
We won't bow down and we
won't bow down and we will remember.
Okay, go ahead. Everybody hold their hand up when these birds will go up. Think about the ones we have went before. That means a whole lot. These birds at some point in time will get together and leave together like we all should do. That's very important. Let's let these kids say it one more time. We won't bow down and we will remember.
Blood run through our veins. Let it be the ones who have made their transitions a year ago or more, so that they can for sure rest in peace, and we will call upon them 1 year from when they have made their transition. So anyone who recently transitioned to join the ancestors, we will let them be at peace for now, but let's call the other ones who are really waiting and who are so very, very anxious to hear from us. We don't acknowledge them enough, you all, and I ask that you do a better job of that. It's not that deep. Get up some mornings, take a bath, freshen up, go outside, go find a plant, pour some water, say thank you. Call their names and let them know how much you love them and appreciate them, okay? So I will call my family and you call yours and know that the water is being poured and they are being honored. I call upon my beloved mother, Emma.
Lucille May Wilson Peart. Charles Octavius Peart. Donald Peart. Mary Jane Wright Malliot. Ibae.
If the names are not coming to you, call the last names of all the clans that you know you belong to. I call from the Gordons, the Mills, the Browns, the Tisdales, the Dillons. We give thanks to all of those babies who left sooner than we thought they should have left, but we know that everything is in divine order. Ashe?
Ashe.
We ask that as we have called you forth, we ask that
I wish you would call out all of your ancestors so we can praise them all and raise them up. Ibaye.
They're my best.
John Washington, Brand.
Henry Highland Garnett.
Martin Delaney.
Robert Small.
Edward Martin. Nikita Nesbitt.
Mary
Baraka.
Martin Delaney.
Dr. King.
Marcus Garvey.
Moses first.
Antonio Marcelo.
Shaka Zulu. G2.
Madam C.J. Walker. Dr.
Antonio Marcelo.
Ramsey II.
Harriet Tubman.
John Henry Clark. Dr. Ben.
Queen Mother Moore.
Our ancestors, everyone's ancestor who is here, say the names of your ancestors. So in the name of your ancestors, there are many of them. Clark.
Richard Julius Norell.
Eva Du Bois.
Ibaye, 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 Ibaye,
Keep calling them, they're hearing you. Keep calling them.
Ibaye, 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 Ibaye,
Ashe, Ashe, Majuba, Harriet. Ashe, 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 Ashe,
Queen Nanny.
Ashe,
Amy Garvey.
all those people forward now whose blood runs through your veins, whose shoulders you definitely stand on. I call upon my dear beloved mother, Alma Marie Burris Gordon. Ashe, my father, Alfonso Marcellus
Lillian
Gordon.
Lindsay.
Ashe. My
Doyle
beloved brother, Joseph Gordon III, Ben and Bethany Newman Gordon, thank you, Sam and Lizzie Brown Burris, thank you, Auntie Alice Jeanette Burris, Auntie Bernie Scott Barnes, Ellen C. Gordon Brown, thank you. If you do not know the names, call out the last names of the different clans that you belong to. I call upon the Gordons, the Dooms, the Tisdale, the Brown, the Nelson, the Coopers, the Witherspoons, the Fulmores, the Tisdales. Thank you. We are so honored. We are so grateful.
In the water, children
wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Yeah! Our baby's here. Yes, Tanya. Wade in the water. The water. It's time. Come on. It is time. The village gathers. Everybody in the back, come on. Full circle. Are you coming? Come on.
Greetings, family. Greetings. Alafia. Hotel. Shalom. I come. This is once again our virtual Charleston Remembrance for 2021. This makes our second time in a row not gathering as the village would gather face to face. But however, we will honor our ancestors regardless. Due to our pandemic that has occurred, it has stopped us from doing so much face to face, but we will gather anyway. And we give thanks for this moment in time to be here. I would like to welcome you to my hometown, Low Country, King Street, South Carolina, where we have placed an altar here on this day for the ancestors. We have offerings of fruit, vegetables, a lovely, lovely watermelon. They are indulging in many, many beverages today: wine, liquor, coffee, lemonade, soda. And we ask that all of this be accepted and all of it be well with you. Ashe.
Ashe.
We give thanks today to God the Almighty, to Oladumare, to Source Energy, Infinite Intelligence, to the Creator of all that there is. We give you thanks on this day. We come and we give you thanks. I am Pearl Gordon. Oshun Wanuola Elfunlayo, Mam Fatu Sek, Adjawa Loma, Sister, Kudama, Baby Girl, Lil Pearl,
Yeah.
PG, if we want to add the one from back in the day.
Okay.
Anyway, anyhow, thank you so much for allowing me to once again partake in this wonderful, wonderful experience, and I am so delighted and so grateful to be here. We come mainly on this occasion to honor those ancestors who perished in the Middle Passage, whose bones rest at the bottom of the ocean. Ashe. We give thanks to these ancestors because they are operating from a place of power. Maybe just the bones, but those bones tell a story. Ashe. And we honor them and we lift up their spirits and we ask that they come and give us the power and the might to be on this journey that we are on the planet at this time called life. As we deal with all of what is going on, we ask for clarity, Ashe. We ask for courage, Ashe. And we ask for protection. May you guide our heads, our hands, our hearts, and our feet. Give us insight. Give us wisdom. Give us intelligence, Ashe. We ask that you just protect us from any hurt, harm, or danger. We ask that you just guide us and show us the way to obtain optimum health and allow us to live long, quality, purposeful life. Ashe. We ask that you guide our words, our actions, our deeds, and all of our endeavors. Ashe. We ask that the ancestors that survived the Middle Passage and ended up in the different locations that they placed us, we ask that those ancestors and their spirits walk with us, guide us, and talk to us, and give us direction, give us insight, give us courage, and protect us as well. Ashe. We ask that the ancestors that were on those plantations working and toiling and doing everything that they have had to do, we ask that you come and be with us in this moment and throughout our journey called life. We call upon the men, the women, and the children. Ashe. We call upon the ancestors whose blood directly runs through our veins, whose DNA we share, keeps us connected infinitely and eternally. I call upon the Gordons, the Newmans, the Burris, the Tisdales, the Nelsons, the Browns, the Coopers, the Witherspoons, the McKnight, the Seegers, the Fulmores, the names known and the names unknown, and the babies yet to be born. I ask that you come and walk with me and talk with me and continue to give me optimum health and vitality and long quality purposeful life. That you bless all of my endeavors, big and small. That you just shower down blessings upon blessings upon blessings. And I give thanks. I give thanks. I give thanks. Ashe. We call upon those ancestors who were those freedom fighters that fought for what was right. We give thanks to you, Sister Fannie Lou Hamer. Ashe. We give thanks to you, Sir Joyner Truth. Ashe. We give thanks to you, Malcolm X, Ashe, Martin Luther King, Ashe. We give thanks to all of those ones whose names are, I'm not saying them out, but hopefully you are there at home watching and saying them with me. And we ask that you give us your courage, your strength, and your fight, and allow us to know that you got us no matter what. Ashe, Ashe. We give thanks to the ancestors who are the ancient ones, the ones who did not board the ships, whose we don't even know what they are called by. Ashe. We thank you that you stayed and you kept Africa what it is today. And we ask for an upliftment of all of the families and the spirits of the ones who have had to depart with their loved ones because of this pandemic. Ashe. We ask that your hearts be lighter and your walk becomes firmer, and you know that these people have became your direct, special, powerful angels, and you can call upon them at any time you wish. We pour water because water cleanses, water purifies, and water revitalizes. And so each day, do not be discouraged. Raise up, honor those ancestors, the ones that you are directly related to, that have moved on to the next thing, and honor them with little water, wine, whiskey, food from time to time. They are waiting. They are waiting. I promise you, they are waiting. So it is up to you to just call upon them, and it will happen. I promise you. Just ask for what you want, and it will be given. Ashe. We ask for divine blessings in this moment as we continue and as we move out of this pandemic onto what the next thing on the planet will be like for us. Because know that the shift has occurred and things will never be as we once knew them prior to what has happened. But know that we are protected. Ancestors, keep us in the knowing and allow us to know that we know that you got our back, our front, our side, and you are protecting us 360, 365, 24/7. Ashe. We give thanks to those ancestors that are around us in all of our endeavors, whether we are aware of it or not. Ancestors, give us the courage that we need. Give us the strength that we need to continue. Allow us to never, ever, ever give up. Allow us to know that hope is always an option, and allow us to be able to draw from your creativity, from your geniusness. Thank you, ancestors, that you will walk with us and guide us through these upcoming days, and you will see fit to shower us with avalanches of abundance, of optimum health and vitality. You will bless us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, as well as financially. For in this moment, the largest, hugest, most humongous transfer of wealth is happening on this planet right before our very eyes. Give us the insight there, ancestors, to be able to partake in this and to be able to live as the kings and queens that we are. And Ashe, thank you, ancestors, that we are walking in abundance and that we are always in abundance, and prosperity is always around us, and we are able to have, do, and be whatever it is that we decide that we want for ourselves. Keep our minds strong, Ashe. Keep our hearts clear, and keep our thinking clear at all times. Give us whatever it is that we need in every given moment to be successful in all of our endeavors. Ancestors, we just want to thank you. We just want to thank you. We just want to thank you and show you all the gratitude we can show you each and every day. Ashe. 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 Ashe.
Your drummers are coming through. Yeah, they coming right here. I go! Come on through. Join you for a little while, just a little while. Just hold tight. I can't give up my spot yet. Come on and fill around, folks. Fill it in, fill it in, fill it in. Fill it in. Let's get everybody here. Fill them in, please. Come on through. Uh-oh. Yeah, if anything, throw the plant in there. You haven't been instructed yet.
I said, you ready?
You been?
I said,
Oh,
you
we
ready?
been ready. Do your thing. Now I'm trying to get your hand. Go ahead, keep shaking my hand.
Shake that thing. That's all she got.
Party. Come on, get in there. Let me know. Ease on in. That's what it's for. It's time for the village to
remember you for this great sacrifice you've done. I remember you by doing the work, your work, our work, that we may be respected again as a people throughout this planet, that we will be restored to the former glory of our ancestors, and bring my art and balance to our communities and to the planet.
Remember you, the middle path, my alpha. Why, my alpha.
Ashe. Iba Olodumare Ashe. Iba Ashedao, Iba Ashedao, Iba Ashedao Ashe. Iba Kodao, Iba Kodao, Iba Kodao Ashe. Iba Woni Yami Mosharunga Ina Yofenju Ayeti Super Consha Won. I do my day, day, day. I do my day, day, day. I do my day, day, day. I do my
Ancestors are called.
With this ceremony in particular, we open a door and invite these African ancestors to join us. Traditionally, that is the responsibility of the living. That is our task. These ancestors are our angels, our saints, and they have been waiting to fulfill this role.
Katapatash.
Thank you.
When Black lives mattered and why we should be saving we.
Our dear beloved ancestors,
You have been the givers. So today, be the receivers. Ancestors, we could not leave this place without making you a promise. I hold within my hand a bundle of 4 sticks. Each stick represents 100 years plus of enslavement. Each stick represents the 4 corners of the earth in which we were dispersed all over this world. And each stick represents a bond, the Ndinkra symbol, meaning fence. As you were dispersed around the world, ancestors, you were without love and protection, all of those things that we humans need. And today, our promise to you from this day forward is to recognize our connectedness and to make sure that each and every one of us, your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, will provide a bond or a fence of protection for each other, love for each other, strength for each other, safety for each other. Ancestors, we thank you.
Covered in red clay and munching on sourdough. My South is history. The survival of catastrophe after catastrophe. Harboring true narratives of slaves freed behind hedge built-in hearts vicinity, heritage keeps her heart beating. My South has country roads winding from her hairline to the tips of her toes, where you see more trees when traveling than concrete.
They said, please remember, promise you will never forget. Our story must be told again, again, and
On July 3rd, the Ma'afa Celebration Committee will be sponsoring our annual Ma'afa Day of Remembrance celebration at Durand Eastman Park at the shoreline. The following is a list of 10 reasons you should be there. Number 1, you will be blessed and uplifted by the ceremony. Number 2, you will learn something extraordinary about the African American experience. Number 3, you will see neighbors and loved ones there and meet and make old and new friends. Number 4, you will be able to contribute your thoughts as to how to make our community a better place to prosper. Number 5, you will be supporting solidarity and the oneness of humanity. Number 6, you will be reminded of the beauty of water, sand, sky, and earth. Number 7, you will demonstrate to the children and youth who attend how a caring community behaves. Number 8, you will be amazed at the talent and resources in our community. Number 9, you will be able to involve yourself in a positive community activity. Number 10, you will make those nameless Africans who perished in the Middle Passage and those named and unnamed Africans who lived and contributed to this country pleased that they have been remembered by your presence. HARAMBEE.
She came back for him anyway, wanted to show him how to turn his love around, but what she found was her replacement, her husband's haunted drowned. So she rescued her brothers and sisters instead. They walked with her, they talked with her, they fought with her through woods and rivers and crackers and guns, through cellars, through horseshit, through failing convictions, through 1,258 miles, through injured feet and fear. Through unlimited trials, she led them to the home she prepared and told them they were now free, but only if they dared to be. Then she turned around a second time and went back for her parents. So when I get tired of being in these trenches, I recall my ancestral mother, Harriet's Queen Elementor Tubman, and her third and fourth times when she dug these ditches, setting up rescue and reconnaissance missions, covert networks into the true axis of evil, unshackling the ankles and the consciousness of her people. And when I get discouraged by the ignorance, the hatred parading as innocence, the racist ideologies which exist and persist, I recall her 5th and 6th times when she showed who had the mastermind, for a master's mind could never fathom her plans for travel, nor her methods of escape. And when I break in my commitment and start acting like I don't know why I was sent, I recall how her 7th, 8th, and 9th times was spent trying to convince her prison psyches they were capable of releasing their chains. She said she could have freed thousands more if only we were slaves. That's why when I'm scolded by the scared, or when chumps so weak they hump their backs when I speak, start shushing me, looking over their shoulders for the police, I pay homage to her 10th, 11th, and 12th times. When snitches and slave catchers both been up bullet, made a $40,000 bounty her old card and still couldn't pull it. Not even during her 13th time when they swore they found her weakness, but since her commitment was only to God and the struggle, her weakness didn't exist, it was only a myth. And on every occasion, when revolution with children. I bring to mind her 14, 15, and 16 times when she served as a constant reminder of the motherhood of God. A relentless fighter, her entire being involved, fending off starvation and dogs with her bare hands, determined that even if she had to fall, our children could still stand. For those infrequent days, I'm just feeling lazy. Thoughts of her 17th and 18th journeys bombard me because I know that we who believe in freedom, we cannot rest. Our people are entitled to our best. To offer less is detrimental. We demean ourselves, our past, and our potential. And for those of us who think the revolution is in our words, well, we're just wrong. Most of us don't even have 19 well-crafted poems. We honor not our peers, our elders, nor our ancestors in the craft, spitting like we got a masterpiece when it's just a rough first draft. So when I suppose sometimes that I'll stop writing, thoughts of her 19th journey, they hit me like lightning. Because I know I was born to convince y'all. If we can't be serious about anything else, we've got to be serious about fighting. Thank you.
Booyala mama booyala mama booyala mama booyala mama
I commend the Sankofa Project for its efforts in recognizing the many contributions our ancestors made to American society. It was once said that those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
So Ibike Lena, it's actually called Tubala Kono, and it's a song that accompanies a rhythm called Ngoron, which is a rite of passage dance for young girls. So it's a call and response song. So I'm gonna say the response. I'm gonna say the call, and I would like for y'all to join in on the response with me. So the words are Ibike Lena.
Ibike Lena.
Yes, and it's gonna sound like Ibike Lena.
Ibike Lena.
Beautiful. All right, y'all ready? Yes. Tubala konojo. Ibike Lena ndeko tubala konojo.
Ibike Lena.
Tubala konojo. Ibike Lena ndeko tubala konojo.
Ibike Lena.
Walodieda mosodo la nisigi madila neko emana tala jamado.
Ibike Lena.
Walodieda mosodo la ni konko madila neko emana tala jamado.
Ibike Lena.
Konko dieda te badola ni so madila neko emana tala jamado.
Ibike Lena.
Konkorira te badola, ni so madila neko emana tala jamado.
Ibike Lena.
Tubala konojo. Ibike Lena neko tubala konojo.
Ibike Lena.
We are an African people.
And it only hits this fleshy part. Gotcha. Because it'll break otherwise. Oh, yes. Right on back. And you play on your
Again, the six are East Indian warriors. You don't mess with them. I've been grateful to do articles with them. Come to find out we had the same knives. Right, so that was fun. If anybody would like what we put together, we're all the women workers. I'm a woman. Guy's gonna have to do his. And all the different types of, there are 147 African combat systems. 147. Okay, so these things you have to think about. People didn't throw spears in Africa. You throw your spear away, that's like throwing your gun. They always say that. No. They didn't do that. That was not terrible. I have too much fun with this. I really do. The machete. The machete has gotten a bad rap. Back to the cinema, people!
Halloween?
Yes! Yes! That's the first thing the kids say. The machete built nations. Come on, give it the respect it deserves. That's some guy running around in a mask. Okay, maybe the guy that came to my house and wouldn't get off my porch at that time. You know, maybe I introduced him to the machete a little bit. No, I didn't chop him up. I just stood on the porch and went like this. want to be super helpful, and sometimes I'm just not. Yeah, I'm 66 now, God willing, I'm 28. I'm just not. At the level, half of 40, not even a whole 40. Open, 40 on my porch. Davis. And so what I did, I stuck some feathers in my head, and I went out and lit some candles and put them on the and I took some salt. Why? Because on the movies, I knew what was going to work. I'm not going to fight you. I can do this, and this is what the movies, unfortunately, have done our young people. We have to get positive images now, especially on these games. In closing, I wish to talk about this. This was 1812. Another one of those gifts. Oh, let's get Mama Jen. Nice birthday gift. This was my gift. Africans had never. We had never. See, I had boots on. We wore boots. This is from the Homie tribe, female tribe. They used to hang them upside down in the trees and cut the head of the French soldiers. And then the French soldiers went back and, oh my gosh, they were 10 feet tall, and they were like this. These women were 4'10", you know, they just had a better fighting system.
Her 1993 Nobel laureate address for the Nobel Prize in Literature. Her speech was on the agency of language. That's why I pick up on this word, imapacy. Language as agency. Language as the facilitator of action, of moving things. Language. Toni said, we die. That may be the meaning of life. But we do language. That may be the measure of our lives. That was 1993. There is a lot in that for us because in this remembrance, we're dealing with language and we're dealing with image that language has carried forward over centuries of a singular human experience on the planet Earth and in the evolution of human life. The taking out of Africa of a major part of its population and spreading that population all over the world to build and create another socio-economic system. And that is something, a language that we're going to have to embrace. A language that we're going to have to dig into for understanding and for interpretation and for the telling of this story. Africa's story is a singular story in the evolution of human life. One of the things that Europe didn't realize, that in going to Africa and taking African people, was that it was interrupting the natural evolution of humankind. Because the gift of Africa to the world is the evolution of our species. Let me say that again. The central gift of Africa to this planet is the evolution of human life in that lake region of East Africa. that is now today Kenya and Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Olduvai Gorge, the Serengeti, Lake Victoria, the Zambezi, that whole eastern section of the continent is where we started this journey millions of years ago as a human species. So Africa is our natural home for everybody. That's not something that's just to be chanted at the corner of 125th Street and 7th Avenue.
Hello.
That's a serious thing to consider. And I want to raise for young people like Ezekwe and other young people here, there are a lot of doctorates out there for us in Portugal, in Spain, in Holland, in Germany, in France, in the Netherlands, and in England, that tells and documents the story of the removal of more than 100 million. One writer says it was 1 million people a year. And this thing went on for 400 years. It wrecked. It was a business that started as a trade between peoples that were within geographical reach of each other across the Mediterranean, along the west coast and up into that strip there, Portugal and Spain, along the east coast and the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean trade was much better with China that went on for thousands of years. But when the Arabs came in, you had Islam enslaving one side of the continent and Christianity enslaving the other side. That's what Nkrumah is talking about in this little book, Conscientism. I mean, don't get carried away with these various ideologies of faith, because they both rape the continent. Seriously. But there's doctoral work to do. And we need the languages of Portuguese and Spanish and German and Dutch and French to open up these repositories of documents and information. The data is there, as it is here at the Charleston Society, the library on King Street. The merchant class of the city, there are books there that deal with that. This thing didn't happen in space. There were people making money. But language is the key to this opening up of it. We think of Africa as if it were a country. It's a continent. America, the United States, is a country. You can fit the United States into the continent of Africa 4 times, which that says Africa is 4 times the size of the United States. I remember sitting in a car in New York with some friends who were in education and in politics, and coming with some folks from Asia just after the Indian liberation movement at the United Nations. And they were discussing Islam and Christianity, and this Indian gentleman working with the Nehru's party in India, in the back of the seat of the car, driving through New York, listening to this conversation. And a pause came up in this heated conversation between the Christian and the Muslim. And he says, you know, while you were creating those religions, we had ours going for thousands of years. That's how young Christianity and Islam is in the world's history.
Don't ever forget that. We were not, people say, oh, your ancestors were slaves. Our ancestors were not slaves. They were prisoners of war. And the brother pointed that out. They were prisoners of war. And what do prisoners of war do? They fight. Allah says in the Quran, and I'll end with this. Allah says, God says in the Quran, he says, oppression is worse than death. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. It's going to be tight.
We have a request from the elder that she needs to say something for the applicant. Yield to the elder. 2 minutes.
I just want to remind you that there were many people who suffered through their teenage years, and I'm one of them, to make sure that you had an opportunity to get professional education. I've still got scars in my body from when we went down with Dr. Abernathy, and then I see our African Americans who got these great jobs and who've forgotten who they are, where they're from. They don't even go back into the community. Our children are not being educated. You need to be mentors. You need to remember that many people suffered. Some of you walk by me and turn your head, but if you only knew what I went through to make sure that you had an opportunity to get an education, get those good jobs where you're making your monies, and now think that you're too good to associate.
Speak!
Go to these schools and to these public schools downtown Charleston and be mentors and tutorers. You need to remember that if you don't help these children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren are going to suffer. You got President Trump and now turning things back. And if you don't make a difference now, you Euro-Americans, you're all a part of this as well. And you have a voice, and you owe it to us to come out here and speak up and use your voice for justice, equality, and harmony.
Amen.
Sure.
Mr. Shane Shepherd.
I wish, however, I wasn't going to do anything, but then I was reminded of being an elder. And then I saw some young people coming over and from the river and barely moving. And I want to tell y'all, even at 70, our ancestors were full of energy. This is the kind of energy we have at 70. I want to do something in honor. I got 2.5 minutes left, right, Connie? I want to do something in honor of Brother Bob Smalls. He and I developed this project back in the 70s. Where we were working for the city of Charleston and developed the storefront for the arts. So this is something we did together, and you know our culture of call and response, that means all of you will have to participate, so you can rest your arm for a minute. Okay, we are going to do the African American history rap. I want you to repeat after me. I said A, B, C, D, E, F, G, African American history.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, African American history.
H-I-J-K, elemental P, African American history.
H-I-J-K, elemental P, African American history.
Q-R-S-T-U-V, African American history.
Q-R-S-T-U-V, African American history.
W, X, Y, and Z, this is the story all about me.
W, X, Y, and Z, this is the story all about me.
I'm not going to tell y'all, I heard somebody that didn't know the ABC. Now, I want you to do it by yourself. I said A, B, C, come on.
G, African American history. H-I-J-K, elemental P, African American history. Q-R-S-T-U-V, African American history. W, X, Y, and Z, this is the story all about me.
A, African American, my true identity. B, Benjamin Banneker, surveyor of D.C. C, for my community, the place I call home. D, for all discoveries, I make this on my own. E, for education, we use from day to day. S is for the families and God that they portray. G, for gifts and talents of those who entertain. H, for Houston Hurston, who wrote about a people plane. I for rhythm, blues, jazz, and all our instruments. J for Jesse Jackson, who ran for president. K for Martin Luther King, we honor with the holiday. L for Cowboy Nat Love did what did they say. M for the man from C.J. Walker, Black Mother Baker there. N is for the prophet Nat Turner, a freedom fighter who dared. O is for President Barack Hussein Obama II, to keep our hopes alive. P is for principles he upheld, to keep our hearts with pride.
All right.
P is for
Yes.
Here's for the questions that I ask about my history. R for religion, from Islam to Christianity. S for the 7 days of the Quanza celebration. T for Harriet Tubman, Doctor of Freedom Station. U is for the Underground Railroad, a secret passageway. V for values to make us strong, from unity to faith, I pray. W for Woodson Carter. G, a vision he did see when he proclaimed February for Black History. Now, X is for the name that Malcolm took, because it means I know. Y is for you to be all you can be for the first that you were born. Z is for Zenith, the highest point in our universe. We reach a top when we repeat the African American history verse. I said A, B, C, D,
E, F, G.
African American history. H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. African American history. Q, R, S, T, U, V. African American history. W, X, Y, and Z. This is the story all about me.
And in the midst of my family here in this village, I'm just going to say what I'm feeling right now. From all that I've learned today, there's always something new. So I'm standing here and I'm going to say, I am that I am. I am the blood, the sweat, and the tears of my ancestors. I am that I am. I am their burden and their pain and their struggle and the suffering. I am that I am. I am all that you are dealing with in your life. Because we are one. I am that. Yes, I am. I wanted to just share that with you today. For in this period of time in my life, as I make a transformation and have gone through many and have received so much in the 72 years that I have been in the universe, I give honor to all of those who've gone before me because I am that. I am. I give honor to my parents because I would not be here if it were not for them, and they are in the land of the ancestors. And I am that. I am. I am all that we do in Charleston. I am that. I am. I am all of those who walk throughout the streets of Charleston and poured libation from places to places. I am that. I am. I am the village. I am. Asante San.
Asante San.
My name is King David. I'm an approved artist with the South Carolina Arts Commission, and my mission is to bring the information to our people about our unique and great history and culture. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today for the remembrance, because until we unlock the keys to the past, find our future. And the day for remembrance is one of those days. And we are the best of the best because, see, we're still here. That's right. Our people were strong, wonderful, powerful. That's why we survived. We're here. And where did they get all that strength? And we have to go back to the beginning. We are the first modern humans. We are Homo sapiens sapiens, the Africans. All scientists around the world finally agree with that information. All other people are direct descendants from black people, African people, whatever adjective you want to use to describe us. Now, one way to challenge the system is sometimes, we sit quietly and accommodate evil out of fear because we will lose favor with people in high places who can be financially beneficial to us. But if we are to change things for the better, hold up. Hold that. All right, I've been to Ghana, I've been
and married, I made a tap so that there was no return. And it's horrible. It's so horrible that you're standing on the floor. You wasn't standing on the floor. You're standing on the cremation and the waste that was there. When you go through this door, no return, just think about the that's left behind that never saw their children. They don't know where we at. We don't talk about that. That middle passage is the way that we're going to try to reconnect. And I have an idea. I'd like to put out there somewhere a stairway, some stairs leading to that door going back. Going there, when you walk through that door, you're going back. You're meeting that spirit that is still waiting in this middle passage so we can meet and rejoin together. Just like we got the drums. Let us give something back and go back and find the rest of ours. So we're only half of what we are. We're still missing that family member. And if you don't think you're African, go there and you'll find somebody look like you or look like somebody you know. So I don't want to take too much time. I'd like to speak, so I'm going to close. I'll keep good night. So thank you and hope that to you.
Since we have the opportunity and we got some time to kill, we gonna say hello. How many people we got that's not from Charleston? Because I heard some of y'all was visiting and drove long ways. Okay, Columbia, South Carolina. Who here from Florida? See, I told y'all they was creeping in. All right. We gonna say hello to the world. Cause see, I don't know what we gonna do with this video this time, this year, but we gonna show them and show out to Charleston, South Carolina. We know how to do this middle passage thing. Woo! No, y'all ain't going that wide out, cause you coming in for the circle.
You didn't mention New York.
Huh? Oh! Yeah. Well, baby, I'm ready from Bushwick, so I already give them the New York flavor. Who's there from New York? Yeah! All right now. If they're not at Coney Island, they're in other places. Who's from Coney Island? Girl, that ain't far. That's still South Carolina. Yeah.
I've asked Sister Millicent to come and share a few words with us. Just a few. She's a historian and a teacher, so go.
Sisters and brothers, as Marcus Garvey said, rise up, right?
Yes.
Right. That's what we're doing here this morning. It's beautiful. We look beautiful. We feel beautiful. We feel connected. I say to you, we must keep the idea of not just looking like an African proud people, but living and acting and behaving like a proud African people. We were asked to bring our fruits. Did we go to Bilo to buy the fruits, or did we go to Mr. Fields, who has a vegetable stand, from John's Island to buy our fruits? Yeah. We were asked to bring flowers. Did we go to Rose Florist to get our flowers, or did we stop by the nearest Piggly Wiggly or Publix? You see, we have to learn how to be an African people in all aspects. Have we gone to that school board to say we demand more for our children than what you are giving us? Did we say we are a proud African people who know that we are being robbed of the opportunities that this world has to offer us? But we got to learn how to do it all the way, all the time. It can't be once a year. It can't be the way we look. It has to be the way we live.
Yeah.
We honor the tragedies, certainly of Emmanuel, but besides painting pictures of Clementi Pinckney, did we ask, where is the money being invested? Do we all here today have money in the CO Federal Credit Union? It is the only Black-owned and run financial institution in the region. See, if our money is not where our mouths and our pretty dresses are, we are not doing a service to our ancestors. Think about it, sisters and brothers. We honor their spirits, but we have to do it in the way we live our lives today. Thank you.
What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? We got work to do, people. Let's get busy.
And they'll go to the right.
They'll go to the right?
Yeah. Only on the right. Only on the right. You can play Hardy! Looking like half a Hardy, but hardier than hard. How you doing?
I'm fine. How is it?
Ooh, I'm good.
Bring your husband back?
Touch the water. Come on, y'all. Y'all ain't come to stay cute. If your feet ain't touch the water, let your hand touch it.
This place is significant. It's very significant to your history, to your culture, and to the trauma that you hold within inside of you. We're here to help heal ourselves and release that trauma. We need to move forward. And in order for us to do that, we recognize and then we address what we have to do. This is an area that we give reverence to and homage to our ancestors.
Do your thing. Go ahead. Go ahead. You started. Do the clap.
Go ahead.
You started. There we go. Only Charleston can do this. Come through, Low Country. Show 'em what the Gullah Geechee Nation got. Y'all the youngest ones we got out here. You know the rhythm. Your hands don't work? Your feet work? Your feet work? You one of them is leaders, baby, so I know you know how to dance. Come on, y'all, it's time to loosen up. We won't be over here long. So get your groove on. Pay your respects. Y'all need to join this other. This ain't a spectator game. Come on, put your phones up. We got you. Go ahead and do your thing. Let's move it. Hey. Go on in there. Hold him back. You that's right. Go on in there now. No. Somebody got to show them. They showed you. Lead by example. Let them know. Hey! know what we do here. Clear the way. Clear the way, baby. Clear the way. What brought you here this year? No, I got to find out because we did a lot of work trying to make sure people come in, so it's important to find out. What brought you here this year?
I heard about it last year. I came out last year and it was a wonderful experience.
That's what I'm talking about. See? Well, what brought you here this year? I'm acting like I ain't never seen you.
Sacrifices of my ancestors. I heard so much about this and I just wanted to put my feet in the water.
What brought you here this year?
I praise God for this experience and for my ancestors and for my life. This time last year I was suffering from breast cancer.
Hallelujah! Amen, 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 amen. Amen. What brought you here this year?
Love.
All right.
Love for my people, love for my ancestors.
I say. What brought you here this year?
My ancestors. To celebrate the life that they gave to me.
Have you been here before?
No, this is my first time.
Where are you from?
New York.
All right. All right. Work it this out Hello. brought you here this year?
Well, this is my second time being here.
That's right.
I was here 2 years ago.
Okay.
Dr. Hayes was here.
And it's setting your spirit.
Yes, indeed.
All right, then.
I think we'll start my journey. I went with one of my singing groups to Ghana.
Beautiful.
Went to the castle. It just started me spiritually getting back to where I started.
Hey, there you go. Amen, amen, amen. All right, ladies. What brought you here this year?
We wanted to celebrate part of the history of all of our brothers and sisters everywhere.
Now, how did you hear about it to come to this side?
Because we belong to a group that meets at Calvary every week.
Amen. That'll do it. That'll do it. Here she goes. There she goes. Hey. Bring them all down. Bring them all down. This ain't a show. Let the spirit move you. Get through it. You ain't got to wait on nobody. Let me see that village dance. Yes. Let me, come on now. Show that Charleston, South Carolina does it. Y'all on that one by one? Hey. Hey. Y'all better get it. Let me put some work in. You've been hiding that. Come on, everybody. Don't be scared. Come on. Yes. Bring it on. Bring it on. That's how we do it in Charleston, South Carolina. Oh, I'm going to need a low country clap in a little while. Look at all these beautiful people. Give yourselves a round of applause. Let me hear it out.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven
don't even know where I threw my shoes. Hello, hello, hello. I'm glad you at least made it this far.
Thank you.
All right, ease your way. Don't rush back, because I got to get them pictures and get ahead of you. Not too fast. Thank you, Jesus.
Now, we're going to go one at a time. Ready? One clap. Then we're going to go two claps. Ready? You got that? You all right? Now we get ready to add something. Three claps. Ready? Listen.
Yes, sir.
Y'all got that now? Y'all right with that? Come on, let's get some people. Precious Lord.